Chapter 3957. When Mo Yunjue noticed that Su Yingxue was actually looking at him with a pleading gaze, the coldness in his eyes became even more intense. He only wanted to protect Bailey Hongzhuang, yet Bailey Hongzhuang had been wronged because of him. One could imagine the anger in his heart. In Penglai Palace, there were quite a number of women who had a good impression of him, but the only one who could make him so disgusted was Su Yingxue. "If you don't apologize, then I'll just kill you," Mo Yunjue said indifferently, his deep eyes filled with coldness and disgust. Once he said that, everyone present couldn't help but gasp. Their astonished gazes landed on Mo Yunjue. No one had expected him to take Su Yingxue's life the moment he opened his mouth. When Ziren and Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but look at each other, their gazes filled with astonishment. They had long known that Mo Yunjue, as the young master of Elysium, was naturally decisive in killing people. He could even be said to kill without batting an eyelid, but they hadn't expected him to be so decisive. No matter what, Su Yingxue was a woman who admired him. Normally, men would be more tolerant of women who admired them, but they had never seen this in Mo Yunjue. On one hand, it proved that he indeed didn't have any good impression of Su Yingxue. On the other hand, it also proved how important Bailey Hongzhuang was in his heart. When Ren Ziheng and the rest saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had been bullied, Bewitching had immediately stood up. His attitude of protecting his wife was extremely obvious, but they hadn't expected Mo Yunjue to be so ruthless as well. Although Su Yingxue's way of doing things was wrong, it was only a verbal conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang. Bewitching and Mo Yunjue had the intention to kill because of this. This wasn't a normal kind of protection, it was a reverse scale. Su Yingxue was completely dumbfounded as she stared at Mo Yunjue in a daze. It was one thing for Bewitching to show such an attitude since Bailey Hongzhuang was his wife, but for Mo Yunjue to do the same, it was too unbelievable. She had been hoping that Mo Yunjue would open his mouth to help her end the situation, but never had she expected that not only did Mo Yunjue not have the slightest intention of helping her out, he even said that he would take her life. An indescribable gloominess exploded in Su Yingxue's heart. She had never expected such an outcome. She only felt that her passion had been extinguished and that someone had ruthlessly stabbed her heart with a knife. That kind of uncomfortable feeling made it hard for her to breathe. At that instant, Su Yingxue only felt her face burning. Everything she had done before was like a few ruthless slaps to her face. She thought that she could be different in Mo Yunjue's heart, but Mo Yunjue's words told her deeply that not only was she not different, she couldn't even be compared to a stranger. Thinking back to how she had tried to curry favor with him, Su Yingxue really wanted to dig a hole in the ground. This kind of feeling was even more unbearable than killing her. "Mo Yunjue, aren't you going overboard?" He Bingrue looked at Mo Yunjue in disbelief. Although she had always thought that he was a very cold person, she had never expected him to be so cold-blooded. "Yingxue is so nice to you and you actually say that you want her life." Chapter 3958. Can't I? He Bingrue was stunned on the spot, unable to vent her anger. Facing Mo Yunjue's cold eyes, she could only feel that she couldn't speak. It was clearly a reasonable thing, but Mo Yunjue's question made her feel as if she was in the wrong. That was because his eyes were filled with wind, snow, and ice. There wasn't the slightest bit of warmth, making people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. For some reason, they felt an indescribable pressure. At that moment, not only He Bingrue, but even Xiao Wenyu and the rest were dumbfounded. Previously, it was widely rumored that the newcomer Mo Yunjue had a cold personality. After interacting with him for 2 days, they had the same feeling. However, it wasn't until this moment that they realized that not only was Mo Yunjue cold, but he was also cold-blooded. After hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Su Yingxue's gaze couldn't help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang. As a woman, she had sharp intuition. Long ago, she had already felt that Mo Yunjue treated Bailey Hongzhuang differently, but she couldn't find any evidence. Until the moment Mo Yunjue stood up for Bailey Hongzhuang, her feeling became even more obvious. That was because Mo Yunjue had shown that he cared too much. Previously, no matter what happened, Mo Yunjue had always been cold and indifferent. If Mo Yunjue cared a lot about each of his friends, then why didn't Mo Yunjue say anything when she spoke up for Ren Zimei? But when she spoke up for Bailey Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue immediately stood up and spoke so ruthlessly. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was being protected by Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue, Su Yingxue only felt a wave of jealousy. Bailey Hongzhuang already had Di Beichen, so why was Mo Yunjue still protecting her like this? Compared to her own situation, was Bailey Hongzhuang really that good? Mo Yunjue, I only verbally offended Bailey Hongzhuang. Do you have to be like this? Su Yingxue looked at Mo Yunjue with burning eyes. Her eyes were already bloodshot with tears, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. Of course. Facing Su Yingxue's question, Mo Yunjue's answer was even more natural. To him, no one was more important than Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as someone dared to bully Bailey Hongzhuang, they would be his enemy. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze. Mo Yunjue's answer made them feel an indescribable discomfort. Logically speaking, an ordinary person would refute such a question, but Mo Yunjue had admitted it without any concealment, making them unable to continue speaking. When Xiao Wenyu saw the conflict becoming more and more intense, he immediately pulled Su Yingxue's sleeve and said, "Junior sister Su, stop fooling around. This matter was originally your fault, so you should quickly apologize." Su Yingxue stubbornly looked at Mo Yunjue and bit her lips tightly, unwilling to apologize. She was unwilling because once she apologized to Bailey Hongzhuang, she would never be able to raise her head in front of Bailey Hongzhuang for the rest of her life. She simply couldn't endure such a feeling. Seeing Su Yingxue's attitude, Di Beichen's gaze turned cold and he said indifferently, "Looks like you don't want to apologize." Chapter 3959. Junior brother Di, please don't be angry. Yingxue already knows her mistake. Xiao Wenyu hurriedly spoke up, his expression filled with nervousness. He was about to die from depression. Before Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came back, he had already warned Su Yingxue not to make trouble without reason. He didn't expect that Su Yingxue didn't listen to his words at all. Not only did she not give up, but on the contrary, she became even more serious, so that things had developed to this point. Di Beichen and the others were now a team that could not be provoked in this Penglai palace. As long as one had a little eyesight, they would understand that they absolutely could not offend them. Otherwise, they would only be looking for trouble. Originally, it was fine if he couldn't use this chance to build a good relationship with Di Beichen and the rest, but now, not only could he not do so, he had even offended them. This was terrible. Junior sister Su, quickly apologize. Xiao Wenyu turned around and gave Su Yingxue a look. Compared to his previous concern, his current attitude had turned into a warning. He lowered his voice and said, "If you still don't apologize, I won't be able to protect you." Su Yingxue was a member of their team, so he naturally wanted to protect her. However, if Su Yingxue continued to be so stubborn, he naturally wouldn't offend Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest for her. This was because losing Su Yingxue was just a small loss to their team. However, if they offended Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, it could very well be a disaster. Between the two, no matter who it was, they would choose to give up on Su Yingxue. After hearing Xiao Wenyu's words, Su Yingxue's eyes turned even redder. She only felt that she had suffered a great grievance, but now, everyone was forcing her to apologize. She wasn't willing to apologize, nor was she willing to lower her head to Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, she would feel that she would forever lose to Bailey Hongzhuang. Senior brother Xiao, I understand your good intentions, but since Su Yingxue doesn't accept it, you don't have to waste your efforts anymore. Di Beichen said slowly. His eyes suddenly became sharp. Since we can't talk about reconciliation, then. When He Bingrue saw that the situation had taken a turn for the worse, she hurriedly said to Su Yingxue, "Yingxue, they aren't joking. Apologize quickly, or else they might really kill you." Su Yingxue was originally going down a dead end, but after being shaken by He Bingrue, she came back to her senses. As soon as she raised her head, she saw Di Beichen's cold and sharp eyes. She couldn't help but shiver. Only now did she remember to be afraid. "I apologize," Su Yingxue hurriedly said. No matter how unwilling she was, Her life was naturally more important at a time when her life was at stake. When Xiao Wenyu and the rest saw that Su Yingxue finally understood the situation, they let out a sigh of relief. At least the situation hadn't developed to the worst stage. Lin Mingtao originally wanted to use this opportunity to woo Su Yingxue, but after seeing this scene he didn't dare to make a sound and disturb them. In the inner hall, in terms of seniority, they were naturally higher than Bewitching and the rest. However, in terms of limelight and potential, they were all inferior. Bewitching and the rest were all favored by Lord Long and the Hallmaster. Offending them wouldn't end well. Chapter 3960. After all, even if Su Yingxue had apologized, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest would definitely still hate her. Beauties were the best, but they weren't as important as their own benefits. Even though there weren't many cultivators who knew how to use sound attacks, it wasn't like there weren't any. However, if they were to offend 3 Starlight Realm cultivators, they wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Listening to Su Yingxue's words, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue both looked at her coldly. They didn't say anything, obviously waiting for her to apologize. Seeing this, even if Su Yingxue didn't dare, she could only lower her head and apologize. "I'm sorry." No sincerity. Seeing that Su Yingxue's voice was too soft, Shengguan Ying said coldly. Her attitude towards Su Yingxue was getting worse and worse, so she naturally wouldn't be polite with her words. She actually dared to make things difficult for Hongzhuang. She was really courting death. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Su Yingxue indifferently. She didn't have many thoughts about Su Yingxue and only felt that this girl had the temper of a missy, thinking that everyone had to give in to her. Since that was the case, she would let Su Yingxue understand that not everyone had to give in to her. If she did something wrong, she had to bear the responsibility. She had never liked this kind of girl who threw a tantrum, and the repeated incidents had already made her lose her patience. Now, she felt disgusted. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had no intention of letting her off, Su Yingxue couldn't help but raise her voice and say again, "Junior Sister Bailey, I'm sorry." Xiao Wenyu also stood out. "Junior Sister Bailey, Junior Sister Su has already apologized. She already knows her mistake, so please forgive her." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head and looked at Xiao Wenyu before turning her gaze towards Su Yingxue. "I originally didn't have the intention to bicker with you, but you have to be clear that no one has to endure your missy temper. Although I don't know where your sense of superiority comes from, no matter if it's your strength, identity, or appearance, you are mediocre, yet your temper is so big. Let me give you a piece of advice: rein in your temper as soon as possible. Otherwise, you might not even know how you died in the future." After saying this, Bailey Hongzhuang retracted her gaze and turned to Di Beichen and the rest. "Let's go." Di Beichen and the rest nodded their heads when they heard this, then turned and left with Bailey Hongzhuang. As for Su Yingxue, they felt an indescribable sense of disgust whenever they looked at her. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Su Yingxue's face was already ugly to the extreme, but because of the other party's strength, she could only endure it. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's contempt for her, she was simply angry. Strength, identity, appearance. Bailey Hongzhuang had brought up these 3 points without a doubt to mock her. However, looking at Su Yingxue's appearance, Xiao Wenyu wasn't willing to say anything more. He had already said what needed to be said, and he was also extremely dissatisfied with Su Yingxue. He was considered an old senior brother with a pretty good position in Penglai Palace, but now he had to apologize for Su Yingxue, damaging his relationship with Ren Ziheng. The value of the loss was too great. Chapter 3961. Compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, Su Yingxue was indeed a far cry. Seeing Xiao Wenyu ignoring her, Su Yingxue instantly looked at Lin Mingtao unwillingly. "Senior brother Lin, am I wrong?" Lin Mingtao smiled awkwardly and said, "Junior sister Su, Xiao Wenyu, we still have some matters to attend to, so we'll leave first." After saying that, Lin Mingtao cupped his hands toward Xiao Wenyu and gave a signal to the cultivators in the team before turning around to leave. Seeing this, Su Yingxue couldn't help but be stunned. She hurriedly said, "Senior brother Lin, didn't you say you wanted to form a team with us? Why are you leaving just like that?" I suddenly remembered that I have some urgent matters to attend to, so I won't be staying here for the time being. We plan to return first. Lin Mingtao smiled faintly. Goodbye, Junior Sister Pig. As he said that, Lin Mingtao left in a hurry. Since he had already decided to keep a distance from Su Yingxue and the rest, he naturally wouldn't continue to form a team with them. Otherwise, if Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest met them here, they would probably think that they were in the same group. Then, it would really be hard to explain. Seeing Lin Mingtao leave so quickly, Su Yingxue couldn't help but frown. I didn't hear senior brother Lin say that he had something to do, so why is he behaving so strangely now? Hearing Su Yingxue's muttering, Xiao Wenyu and the other cultivators in the team sneered inwardly. This woman was really a pig's head. Now, everyone could see that Lin Mingtao didn't have anything important to do. He was just avoiding them, so he left quickly. However, Su Yingxue couldn't see through this. She was simply too stupid. As she said that, Su Yingxue couldn't help but look at Xiao Wenyu. Senior brother Xiao, senior brother Lin, they left just like that. What should we do? I'm afraid it won't be easy to find other teams here. Let's go back too, Xiao Wenyu said weakly. Xiao Wenyu said weakly. He suddenly regretted inviting Su Yingxue to their team. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. We're going back just like that? Su Yingxue asked unwillingly. If you want to continue staying here, I don't have any objections. Xiao Wenyu cast an indifferent glance at Su Yingxue and immediately turned to leave. It was already late, and if they continued to waste time here, the 6 of them wouldn't be able to defeat the skeletons if they met them at night. He believed that if he met Bailey Hongzhuang and the others again tonight, he was afraid that the other party would not save him again. So it would be safer to leave earlier. It was safer. The other cultivators immediately followed behind Xiao Wenyu and left. They were speechless to the extreme. If it wasn't for the fact that there were too few of them, they really wouldn't have bothered with Su Yingxue and Li Mu. And no matter how unwilling she was to leave the group, to leave the rest and the rest and the rest, the group, the rest, and the rest. So she and the An and the rest, and the An and the rest and the rest, and she and the others, they and the rest, to leave, leaving and the An and the them. Fortunately, He Bingrue was with her. And the Lin. And the to be. To Lin and Lin's. Was. Chapter 3962. At the mention of Su Yingxue, Bailey Hongzhuang was not in a good mood. She sighed and said, sooner or later, she will be taught a lesson because of her temper. Although the majority of cultivators with strength had a temper, this temper was definitely not for cultivators who were stronger than them. They did not make a move, but it did not mean that the people Su Yingxue provoked in the future would also not make a move. If Su Yingxue could not change this habit, she would suffer a great loss sooner or later. Of course, she also did not think that Su Yingxue could change this habit. Shengguan Yingying nodded. She is safer in Penglai Palace Hall. If she goes out, who knows how many enemies she will provoke with her temper. In my opinion, this fellow's temper is simply more annoying than Chu Yunyao's. Although Chu Yunyao's actions were overboard, there was at least one reason. This Su Yingxue completely had the temper of a young miss. She had no ability and still had a big temper, which was even more unacceptable. Since we have already separated from them, let's just treat them as if they never existed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It's still more comfortable with our own team. That's true. Xiren nodded. When we are with them, we have to pay more attention to what we say. It's really troublesome. It's not early now. Let's find a place nearby to rest and recover to our best condition. If the skeleton army appears at night, we can also fight with them in our best condition, Bewitching said. Hearing this, everyone agreed. They had not encountered the skeleton army for 2 days in a row. With their current location, this could be considered very lucky. As for whether they would have such good luck again tonight, no one was sure. Therefore, they had to be prepared. Casually finding a place with a wide view, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest stopped to rest. The sky gradually turned from bright to dark. After a period of rest, everyone had recovered to their best condition. However, at this moment, Ren Zimei was surprised to find a team in front of them. However, when they saw the people in the group clearly, a wisp of surprise could not help but surface in their eyes. Isn't this Lin Mingtao's team? Ren Zimei looked at the newcomers in surprise. Why didn't they team up with Xiao Wenyu's team? In his line of sight, only Lin Mingtao and the others were walking over. Xiao Wenyu and the others were nowhere to be seen. Previously, they had clearly heard Lin Mingtao's suggestion to team up with Xiao Wenyu's group. Could it be that something had happened after that? Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at one another, and Shangguan Yingying couldn't help chuckling. Maybe Su Yingshue's Big Missy's temper is too bad. She was angered to death by us and threw a tantrum again, so Lin Mingtao and the rest didn't want to bother with her. Mo Yunjue retracted his gaze and said in a low voice, Lin Mingtao must have refused to team up with them. Ao Lingxiao nodded. This Lin Mingtao should be a smart person. After assessing the situation, he felt that it wasn't worth it to offend you three Astral Radiance Realm experts for Su Yingxue and the rest, so he directly rejected the idea of forming a team. He even came to our side to let everyone know that he wasn't with Su Yingxue and the rest. Chapter 3963. It seems that this Lin Mingtao is also a shrewd person. Di Beichen said slowly. Ren Ziheng smiled and nodded. Lin Mingtao is indeed a very shrewd person. He always knows how to judge the situation. He will never do anything that harms his own interests. Although we all know this Lin Mingtao is indeed a good person, so his popularity in the inner palace of Penglai has always been quite good. I can see that. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Although we know that he came to prove that point, we really don't have any ill feelings towards him. Because Lin Mingtao was showing that he was more inclined towards them. No one would have any ill feelings towards someone who expressed kindness to them. Ren Ziheng, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to meet you here again. Lin Mingtao pretended to be surprised and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. He slowly walked to them with a surprised smile on his face. Although Ren Ziheng had already guessed this, he didn't expose it. He immediately smiled and nodded. Yes, what a coincidence. Senior brother Lin, why didn't you team up with senior brother Xiao? Shangguan Yingying pretended to be curious and asked. She was really curious about how Lin Mingtao would answer. Hearing this, Lin Mingtao sighed and said, Since I saw the conflict between you and junior sister Su, I found that junior sister Su's temper is too bad. If we team up, I'm afraid it will cause a lot of trouble for no reason and affect the friendship with Xiao Wenyu. It's better not to team up. It's better, so I found a reason to leave first. I see. Shangguan Yingying nodded. Senior brother Lin, you are really smart. Fortunately, you didn't team up. Otherwise, there would be a lot of trouble. Yes, I can see that too. Lin Mingtao sighed. It's clear that you team up with them to help them. However, junior sister Su only throws a tantrum and doesn't know how to be grateful. I also feel that Huifan is helpless. However, junior sister Su has always been coaxed by everyone. I'm afraid she is used to it and forgot what situation she is in. As he said, Lin Mingtao couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, Junior sister Bailey, don't be too angry. It's not good for your health. Just ignore it in the future. It's not worth it to be angry. Thank you for your concern, senior brother Lin. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang showed a smile and cupped her hands. I didn't expect that it's already so late. We planned to stay here for the night, but we didn't expect to meet you. Was to meet you. If we encounter an army of skeletons, the more people we have, the safer we will be. We will leave tomorrow morning. Lin Mingtao suggested. He knew when to advance and when to retreat. On one hand, he let them feel relieved. On the other hand, he didn't want to offend Su Yingxue and the others. He knew that they might reject his suggestion to team up. Therefore, he directly suggested to team up for the night and leave tomorrow. This made it impossible for them to reject him. This method also didn't make them feel the slightest bit of ill will. It was really amazing. Chapter 3964. It was getting late, and the skeleton army would appear soon. Even if they refused, Lin Mingtao and the others would not go far away. If they encountered the skeletons, they would have to face them together. It was better to form a team and express goodwill. Listening to Ren Ziheng's words, Lin Mingtao's face suddenly showed a smile. That's good. I didn't expect that I would be lucky enough to form a team with the most famous team in the inner hall. It would be something to be proud of. Senior brother Lin, you're too polite. Bewitching said slowly, in terms of qualifications, you are the senior. In terms of showing off, it should be us showing off. Junior brother D, you don't have to comfort me. I'm very clear about my own capabilities. Lin Mingtao chuckled. Although I have been in the Penglai Inner Hall for a long time, my achievements and gains are definitely incomparable to yours. I don't need to think to know that your future is limitless. If there is a good development in the future, I hope you can give me a chance. He had always known that this world looked at strength, not seniority. No matter how much seniority one had, if one did not have enough strength, it would be useless. If he took advantage of his seniority in front of such potential cultivators, he would be digging his own grave. He would not be so stupid. Senior brother Lin, let's improve together. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Lin Mingtao nodded. Junior sister Bailey, what you said is right. Let's improve together. Night gradually fell, and the entire land was plunged into thick darkness. Everything around became quiet. There was no other sound except for the slight sound of the wind. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had a dignified look on their faces. They quietly looked around, guarding against the appearance of the skeleton army at any time. Everyone could not help but pay attention to their feet, afraid that the skeleton army would appear under their feet. If they were not careful, the possibility of losing their lives was very high. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at Lin Mingtao and the others during this process. It turned out that all the cultivators who came to this training place would automatically fall into silence at night. Everyone showed the same expression. Come to think of it, this was the biggest characteristic of the training ground. However, after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others waited for a period of time, they discovered that there was no movement. There was also no sound in the surroundings. Everyone couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Could it be that their luck today was so good that they didn't encounter the skeleton army? Senior apprentice brother Ren, didn't you say that it's easy to encounter the skeleton army here? How come we haven't met them since the first day we met them? Shengguan Yingying's face was full of confusion. She wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to gain experience and accumulate some points. She didn't expect the situation to be completely different from what she had imagined. Actually, Ren Ziheng is right. It is indeed very easy to encounter the skeleton army here. However, I have also discovered that the probability of encountering the skeleton army has decreased a lot over the past few days. In the past, if you were unlucky, you could encounter them every day. Therefore, very few cultivators dared to come here, Lin Mingtao said. Ren Ziheng nodded. The situation this time is indeed different from before. I don't know what the problem is. Chapter 3965. Bailey Hongzhuang, Bewitching, and Mo Yunjue couldn't help but look at each other. There must be a reason why the skeleton army, which had been appearing frequently before, suddenly didn't appear often now. There must be a reason. Could it be that these skeletons were evolving, so the frequency of their appearance decreased a lot? Recalling their previous conjectures and connecting all these situations, there was a certain possibility. We didn't encounter the skeleton army here, but there should be in other places, right? When Ziren looked at Ren Ziheng and others, logically speaking, most of the skeleton army should have appeared at this time. Since we didn't appear here, does it mean that they won't appear? Hearing this, Ren Ziheng thought for a moment and looked at Lin Mingtao. He said, generally speaking, although the skeleton army may appear at any time, they still have a certain time pattern to their appearance. If they don't appear at this time, then the probability of them appearing will be much smaller. In that case, why don't we go to other places to take a look? Maybe we can encounter the skeleton army. When Ziren said, Shengguan Yingying nodded in agreement. Anyway, it's useless to stay here all the time. Why don't we go to other places to take a look? If we encounter the skeleton army, we can also take the opportunity to earn some points. What's more, there won't be any great danger approaching from the periphery. This should work. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Ren Ziheng and others. Senior Ren, do you think this plan is feasible? Logically speaking, this is not a problem. Ren Ziheng responded. Indeed, we can go around. If we encounter the skeleton army, we can take the opportunity to deal with some of them. Chu Jinfeng nodded. It was already the 4th day since they came here. Except for the first day, they had been in a state of rest. He also wanted to exercise his muscles and bones. After all, they were not as afraid of the appearance of the skeleton army as before. On the contrary, with their current strength, they could already deal with most of the skeleton army, so they didn't need to hide at all. Instead, they could face them head-on. When Lin Mingtao and others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and others wanted to find the skeleton army, they couldn't help but show a hint of surprise on their faces. A person with great skill would be bold. This saying was absolutely true. Many cultivators came to the training grounds because they had no other choice. On one hand, they wanted to earn points. On the other hand, they wanted to fulfill the sex requirements. However, after everyone arrived, they all hoped that they would not encounter the skeleton army. Teams like Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were prepared to look for the skeleton army were extremely rare. So that's how it is. Let's move out then. Bewitching made the final decision. His gaze then fell on Lin Mingtao. Senior brother Lin, we plan to take a look around. What are your plans? Lin Mingtao put away the surprised look on his face and smiled. We have already agreed before that we will team up tonight. So, wherever you go, we will naturally go with you. If we encounter the skeleton army, we can take care of each other. That's good. Bewitching smiled. Let's go together. Chapter 3966. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest listened to their surroundings as they walked. They only hoped that they would be able to hear the movements of the skeleton army. Then they would have found their target. However, they had not heard any movements along the way and everyone could not help but feel disappointed. The skeleton army is usually so active. Why did they all hide when we wanted to earn some points? They really don't give us any face. Shangguan Yingying sighed. Junior sister Shangguan, if anyone else heard what you said, they would probably vomit 3 liters of blood. Lin Mingtao smiled. Why? Because comparisons are odious. Everyone could not help but chuckle when they heard this. Baisher walked next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, Baisher's figure was even taller. Its white fur, which was mixed with the color of blood, made it look even more majestic. At first glance, one could tell that it was out of the ordinary. Lin Mingtao's group also had contracted beasts. However, none of them could compare to Baisher's majestic appearance. Master, there seems to be movement in front. Just then, Baisher's voice suddenly rang out next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang paused in her steps when she heard this. She looked at Baisher in astonishment and asked, "Are you sure?" Baisher nodded. "There's movement in front of us. If I'm not wrong, it should be the appearance of the skeleton army." Bailey Hongzhuang had no doubts when she saw how certain Baisher was. In terms of perception, Baisher was the most powerful. Baisher had never made a mistake in this aspect. Since it said that there was something, there must be something. Let's go ahead and take a look. Baisher says that there is a skeleton army there. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching and the rest and shared this news with them. Really? Lin Mingtao asked in astonishment. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. Baisher's words can't be wrong. Shangguan Yingying also spoke up. That's right, White Lion's judgment in this aspect is the most accurate. He has never been wrong before. It seems like there really is something interesting up ahead. Let's hurry over and take a look. Lin Mingtao's gaze could not help but land on Baisher. His eyes were filled with amazement. Junior sister Bailey, your contracted beast looks extraordinary at first glance. I didn't expect its perception to be so powerful. It's really amazing. From the moment he saw Baisher, Lin Mingtao had already noticed it. It was impossible not to notice such a majestic contract beast. The White Lion is indeed very talented in this aspect, especially in places like the forest or training grounds. Its judgment is much more accurate than ours. The White Lion was a beast king in the first place, and had an innate ability in this aspect. Even if they had broken through to the Starlight Realm, they still could not compare to it. I see. Lin Mingtao nodded and immediately said, then let's go ahead and take a look. If we encounter a skeleton army, we can earn more points. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest increased their speed and flew ahead. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest turned into a gust of wind and disappeared from their original spot at lightning speed. As expected, as they got closer and closer to the front, they also felt the intense fluctuations. Chapter 3967. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang's people saw the situation in front of them, they couldn't help but be stunned again. No way, how can it be so coincidental? Shangguan Yingying secretly clicked her tongue. Wasn't this coincidence too exaggerated? If it wasn't for her and Xiren's suggestion, she would have suspected that someone had arranged this on purpose. Not only Shangguan Yingying, but Bailey Hongzhuang's people were also speechless after seeing the situation. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. This sentence really makes sense. At this moment, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but sigh. In their line of sight, Xiao Wenyu's group was surrounded by the skeleton army. At this moment, they were struggling to hold on. It was obvious that they were no match for the skeleton army. Without any help, they could lose their lives at any time. Seeing this scene, I seem to recall the situation on the first day of the training ground. Chu Jinfeng was speechless. Apart from the change of location, this scene was exactly the same as when they rescued Xiao Wenyu's group. Hongzhuang, do you think senior brother Zhao's group is so unlucky because of Su Yingxue? Shangguan Yingying looked helpless. We've been looking for the skeletons, but nothing happened. Senior brother Zhao's group only wanted to avoid the skeletons, but they were surrounded by them every time. I think they must be very depressed. I'm afraid no one else has such luck. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. This should be what they were afraid of, but when it came, they couldn't avoid it. After seeing this scene, Lin Mingtao's expression was a little funny. This world was too coincidental. Even he found it hard to believe. However, after seeing this scene, no one moved. They just looked at Xiao Wenyu's group who were fighting with the skeletons in front of them. Thousands of thoughts ran through their minds. Lin Mingtao had already made up his mind. Since he decided to get close to Bailey Hongzhuang's group, this idea wouldn't waver. Unless Bailey Hongzhuang's group suggested it, he would definitely not take the initiative to rescue Xiao Wenyu's group. This was because all his previous efforts would be in vain. Therefore, he and his team just stood there and waited for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to make a decision. The feelings of Ren Ziheng and the rest were also very complicated. Previously, they had saved Su Yingxue and the rest because of their friendship as fellow disciples. Never had they expected that not only would Su Yingxue not be grateful, she would even bite the hand that fed her. That was too much. Even they didn't know what to do now. For a moment, Ren Ziheng and the others couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. The person Su Yingxue had offended was Bailey Hongzhuang, so how this matter should be decided was naturally up to Bailey Hongzhuang. Feeling everyone's attention, Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes flashed with a hint of contemplation, but her beautiful face was very calm. Let's go back, Bailey Hongzhuang said faintly. Previously, she had already done her best to rescue Su Yingxue and the rest. Now that things had come to this, it could be said that they had brought it upon themselves. There was really no need for her to do anything. Moreover, she didn't think that she was a kind person. She wouldn't rescue people again and again. Whether they lived or died didn't matter to her at all. Chapter 3968. Xiao Wenyu was so depressed that he was about to die. He felt that the possibility of encountering skeletons inside was very high, so he decided to head to the periphery. This way, their safety would be increased by a lot. According to their speed, they should be able to walk a very long distance in such a long time, but Su Yingxue and He Bingrue were clearly in a bad mood, so their walking speed was very slow. Although he showed that he was unwilling to pay attention to them, they were still members of the team no matter what. Furthermore, there were only 6 of them left. If they didn't have Su Yingxue and He Bingrue with them, it would be difficult for the 4 of them to leave the training ground. Under such circumstances, they didn't walk far, but they didn't expect their luck to be so bad that they would encounter the skeleton army at night. 2 days ago, They had been following Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, hoping to encounter the skeleton army and earn some points, but they didn't get any. Now that they had separated from them, they coincidentally encountered the skeleton army, so one could imagine how depressed they were. With such a large skeleton army, it would be difficult for the 6 of them to deal with it. He only wanted to get out of this predicament, but the speed at which the skeletons appeared was too fast, so he couldn't make it in time. At this moment, Xiao Wenyu suddenly noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest rushing over, and his eyes instantly lit up. At the same time, he also noticed that Lin Mingtao and the rest were together with Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. He couldn't help but be astonished. Could it be that after Lin Mingtao separated from them, he went to find Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest? This was too unbelievable. Thinking of this, he wanted to ask Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest for help, but before he could say anything, he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest preparing to leave. Seeing this scene, his heart couldn't help but turn cold. It seemed that Su Yingshue's previous actions had really offended Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that they were in danger, Bailey Hongzhuang was also planning to leave them in the lurch. This was hope that they had encountered with great difficulty. If Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest left just like that, they wouldn't be able to break out of the encirclement and could only lose their lives here. Thinking of this, even though he found it hard to speak, Xiao Wenyu still shouted, "Junior sister Bailey, help us." Following Xiao Wenyu's words, Su Yingxue then realized that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were not far in front of them, and her expression instantly became complicated. She didn't expect to meet them at this moment, and this coincidence made her feel indescribably gloomy. If he wasn't in a difficult situation, he simply wouldn't want to pay attention to Bailey Hongzhuang. But now that he was in danger, if he was a little careless, he might lose his life. But if he spoke, it would be really shameful. After hearing Xiao Wenyu's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but pause slightly, but she didn't answer. Yingxue quickly asked them for help. He Rui hurriedly shouted. Her face was pale, and she couldn't hold on under the encirclement of the skeleton army. There were wounds all over her body, and she could die at any moment. However, Su Yingxue didn't reply. "Yingxue, if you don't ask them for help, we will lose our lives here." Rui hurriedly shouted. Chapter 3969. Su Yingxue originally didn't want to lower her head, but the situation was indeed life-threatening. Even if she didn't want to lower her head, she had no choice. Thus, she could only cry out unwillingly, "Junior sister Bailey, please save us." Following Su Yingshue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in her tracks and her gaze landed on the skeleton army. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Shangguan Ying and the rest couldn't help but be astonished. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang was really planning to save Su Yingxue? Although Su Yingxue was the one who had called for help, according to their understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang, this shouldn't be her personality. She had always been a person of her word. Since she had made a decision, she definitely wouldn't change it. When Su Yingxue and the rest saw Bailey Hongzhuang, who was originally preparing to leave, suddenly stop because of her cry for help, intense joy couldn't help but appear in their eyes. "Yingxue, Bailey Hongzhuang has agreed to save us." Intense joy flashed across Rui's face. She originally thought that her luck wasn't good today and she was going to lose her life here. She didn't expect that at such a crucial moment, there would be a turn for the better. This made her extremely happy. Su Yingshue's face also revealed a trace of a smile. She couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang with an additional trace of disdain. She didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to think so highly of her. She had only called for help and the former had stopped in his tracks. This didn't make her feel that she had lost face. Instead, she felt that she had gained some face. "Hongzhuang, what do you plan to do?" Shangguan Ying couldn't help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed behind Su Yingxue. This was because he realized that there was a type of small black flower growing out of the skeleton army. In the past, he had never seen such a small flower appear when the skeleton army appeared. All along, he had been searching for the plants that appeared in the training grounds, but he hadn't found anything. After searching for a period of time, he was even more certain that this training ground was completely barren. He couldn't find any trace of plants at all. Just when she thought that her judgment might be wrong, she suddenly discovered that there were actually black flowers appearing in the places where the skeleton army appeared. This made her eyes light up. Perhaps, this was what she had been looking for all this while. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's silent appearance and thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was considering whether to save them or not. Bewitching couldn't help but follow Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze and saw Su Yingxue first. However, he understood Bailey Hongzhuang too well. Bailey Hongzhuang definitely wouldn't have any sympathy for someone like Su Yingxue, so she naturally wouldn't stop because of her cry for help. Therefore, something else must have attracted Bailey Hongzhuang's attention. After carefully observing for a while, Bewitching also discovered the small black flower. This small flower wasn't very obvious in the darkness and was blocked by so many skeletons. If it wasn't for the fact that they were on high ground, they wouldn't have been able to discover the existence of the small black flower. Thinking about what Bailey Hongzhuang had been looking for recently, perhaps this small black flower was the catalyst. At this moment, Bewitching already understood. Looks like my wife has found what she wanted. Bewitching's lips curled into a charming arc as he smiled faintly. Chapter 3970. You really know me well. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her expression was filled with joy and pride. In this world, it was a great joy to have someone who could understand her so well. Of course. Bewitching raised his eyebrows and held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He then walked forward. Since we've discovered her, let's take action. We can't miss this opportunity. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently and her footsteps became firm. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching's actions, Shangguan Yingying and the rest could not help but feel puzzled. What are Bewitching and Hongzhuang trying to do? Rin Zimei and the rest were also puzzled. They could not understand what they were trying to do. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching had such tacit understanding. It was as if this was something that could be easily seen through. However, they could not understand what was going on. Then what should we do? Rin Zimei spread out her hands and looked inquisitively at Xiren. I don't know. Xiren shrugged. Let's follow them and find out. Hongzhuang won't save Su Yingxue. Mo Yunjue slowly said, if they're going over now, they must have discovered something. That's why they're doing this. Although he did not know what Bailey Hongzhuang had seen, he was certain that his judgment was correct. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Shangguan Yingying nodded. I think so too. Su Yingxue is so annoying. She'll only have peace if she's dead. Although Lin Mingtao and the rest did not understand what was going on, since Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had gone over, they naturally followed them to take a look. No matter what choice Bailey Hongzhuang made, they were willing to help. We're saved. We're saved. Originally, He Bingrue had been bitterly holding on, as if she could no longer hold on in the next moment, and could lose her life at any time. However, when she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had decided to help, she only felt that her body was filled with strength, and she immediately forced the surrounding skeletons to disperse. Xiao Wenyu and the others also showed a relaxed expression. Originally, when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others turn around and leave, their hearts turned cold. They thought that they would have to accompany these skeletons forever in the future. They didn't expect that there would be such a favorable turn in the end. How could they not be happy? However, Xiao Wenyu still had some doubts in his heart. It was hard to imagine that Bailey Hongzhuang actually stopped because of Su Yingxue's cry for help. It was truly unbelievable. As Bailey Hongzhuang got closer, she saw the little black flower clearly. The flower had a total of 5 petals and was very small. In this pitch-black darkness, it was not eye-catching at all. If she hadn't coincidentally discovered Xiaohua today, perhaps no one would have noticed Xiaohua's appearance when they were surrounded by the army of skeletons on a normal day. This little flower grew in the places where the skeleton soldiers appeared. In this lifeless darkness, it swayed and was filled with a mysterious power. Bewitching, do you think this little black flower has existed before? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly and tilted her head to look at Bewitching. Bewitching thought for a moment. According to this situation, I'm afraid it has always existed. It's just that we didn't notice it. Chapter 3971. Bewitching nodded. It's not impossible. Every time the skeleton army appears, Everyone is thinking of ways to deal with the skeleton army and no one has the time to pay attention to anything else. Furthermore, no one would have thought that this plant would actually grow in a place where the skeleton army appears. It's normal that we didn't notice it. Bewitching's eyes flashed with a sigh. If they hadn't coincidentally discovered it today, they wouldn't have noticed the difference in the place where the skeleton soldiers appeared. These little black flowers appeared next to the skeleton soldiers, one after another. There were quite a number of them. However, hidden in the darkness, it was easy to miss them. These little black flowers are really strange. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, her dark eyes flashing with confusion. After the skeleton army disappeared, these little black flowers would also disappear. That's why we didn't notice them. That's right, these little black flowers follow the skeleton army. The things in the training grounds are really mysterious. Even these plants are different. Bewitching sighed. Bewitching, what are you talking about? Regarding this matter, what do you plan to do? When Ziren and the rest quickly caught up. When they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching stop, they couldn't help but ask. Bewitching smiled faintly, we didn't come down here to save people. When he said this, Lin Mingtao and the rest were slightly stunned. Mo Yunjue, when Ziren and the rest revealed a knowing smile. Look, are there black flowers next to the skeleton soldiers? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Hearing this, everyone was slightly stunned. Their gazes then turned towards the skeleton soldiers. When they saw it, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. That's right, there really are black flowers. Shangguan Yingying exclaimed, you can see this too? I didn't even notice that there were flowers on the ground. Ren Ziheng's face was filled with amazement. I've stayed in this training ground for so long, but I've never noticed that when the skeleton soldiers appeared, there would be black flowers below. If you hadn't reminded me, I don't know when I would have discovered this. Yeah, we've never noticed it before. Did it just appear now or has it always been there before? Ren Zimei couldn't help but wonder. She had never discovered this before. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I don't know. I didn't notice it the first 2 times. But when I was standing on the hillside just now, I happened to notice the little black flower. I was very surprised. Junior sister Bailey, could this little black flower be the catalyst that you're looking for? Chu Jinfeng's eyes lit up. During this time, they had been helping Bailey Hongzhuang search for the guiding medicine, but they had not found anything. They had even thought that this training ground was completely barren and that it was impossible for any guiding medicine to appear. They never thought that a black flower would appear. This was the only plant that they had seen in this training ground. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a small smile. I had the same guess, but I'm not sure if it's true. We'll only know after we bring it back. Chapter 3972. Indeed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This was also one of the problems she was thinking about. Wife, I'll go with you. With our battle power, it shouldn't be a problem to go deep into that place, Bewitching said slowly. I'll go with you guys too. Mo Yunjue also said, that place is very close to the center and it's more dangerous. Although the 2 of you aren't weak, if you're surrounded, there's still a certain amount of risk. If I go with you guys, it'll be much safer. As for the others, don't go any deeper. Hearing Mo Yunjue's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other. Bewitching then said, all right, then it's decided. The next moment, Bewitching turned around and looked at Ren Ziheng and the rest. The 3 of us will go to the center to pick the black flower. You guys deal with the skeletons outside. Then you guys have to be careful. Ren Ziheng's face was filled with concern. It's very dangerous inside. Don't worry, we'll be careful. When Xiao Wenyu and the rest saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest coming down, they were hoping that they could quickly rescue them. However, they realized that they had stopped and didn't come to rescue them immediately. They couldn't help but feel astonished. Thinking of this, Xiao Wenyu couldn't help but shout, Ren Ziheng, come and help us. Now that they were deeply surrounded by the skeleton army, everyone was gradually scattered by the skeleton army. They weren't together at all. One could imagine how difficult it was for one person to face the pressure of skeletons from all directions. Even though he had already used all his skills, he still felt that it was extremely difficult. The long battle had even created a feeling that it was difficult to continue. Hearing Xiao Wenyu's words, Ren Ziheng couldn't help but frown. In fact, it was Su Yingxue and Xiao Wenyu who had been fooling around. Xiao Wenyu and the rest didn't do anything wrong. It was a pity that they were now implicated by Su Yingxue and Xiao Wenyu. The last time he rescued them, he had already brought a lot of trouble to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. This time, he couldn't repeat the same mistake. He felt very troubled in his heart. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was about to set off, noticed this scene and couldn't help but say, "Senior brother Ren, go and help senior brother Xiao." Hearing this, Ren Ziheng was slightly stunned. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment, as if doubting if he had heard wrongly. "Senior brother Xiao's condition is very bad. I'm afraid he won't be able to hold on for much longer. If we don't go and help, we'll lose our lives here." Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again. Knowing that he did not hear wrongly, Ren Ziheng also nodded his head, his brows filled with joy. "I'll go help immediately." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Although she didn't have much sympathy, she wouldn't casually implicate others. From the beginning to the end, senior brother Xiao didn't show any hostility towards her. On the contrary, she also felt that senior brother Xiao was a very easy person to get along with. It was just that with Su Yingshue's existence, senior brother Xiao was stuck in the middle. Now that senior brother Xiao was in danger, she naturally didn't mind lending a helping hand. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, everyone knew what to do. Her attitude was very simple, which was to ignore Su Yingxue and He Bingrui. As for the others, they could save them. Chapter 3973. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, and Mo Yunjue set off in the direction of the skeleton soldier. They had originally planned to ignore Su Yingxue, but the skeleton soldier was right behind her, so they still had to head in that direction. When Su Yingxue saw that Mo Yunjue and Bailey Hongzhuang had also come to rescue her, she couldn't help but be overjoyed. Even though she felt that Mo Yunjue's previous actions were overboard, she still couldn't help but feel her heart flutter when she saw his handsome face. This kind of man was simply every woman's dream lover. No matter how heartless he was, he still moved people's hearts. "Bingrui, let's hold on a little longer. Mo Yunjue and the rest are about to come and save us," Su Yingxue said emotionally. He Bingrui nodded. "I didn't think that he would still be willing to come and save us at this time. Looks like he's not that heartless after all." "I don't understand either." Su Yingshue's face revealed a vexed expression. She really couldn't understand Mo Yunjue. Every time she was about to lose all hope, he would suddenly give her some hope. It really made her feel vexed. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest got closer and closer to Su Yingxue and He Bingrui, the two of them also became more and more excited. As cultivators of the Starlight Realm, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest cleared the area with just one move. The effect was very shocking. The surrounding skeletons fell in large batches. The three beasts and Di Beichen's contracted beasts also helped to clean up the area, so the three of them didn't slow down at all. However, just when Su Yingxue and He Bingrui thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were coming to rescue them, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest just passed by them and walked behind them. Seeing this scene, Su Yingxue and He Bingrui were stunned. Their eyes were filled with astonishment as they wondered if they had seen wrongly. However, reality told them that they were not wrong. This was because Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two had turned around when they were still tens of meters away from them. Very soon, they realized that the other party had already started fighting with the skeleton soldiers. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two fought with the skeleton soldiers while the four contracted beasts took the opportunity to pluck the black flowers. It was most convenient for Xiao He and Xiao Bai to pick them up. After picking them off, they directly put them into their qiankuan bags. When he looked at it from afar, he did not notice it. However, when he looked closer, he realized that there were many black flowers. He immediately picked them quickly. If this thing was the medicinal catalyst, then they would need quite a lot of it. How could this be? Su Yingxue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two in a daze, unable to react in time. On the other side, Xiao Wenyu and the others had clearly been rescued, but the two of them were left unattended. "Yingxue, what's going on?" He Bingrui was also dumbfounded. She had barely managed to hold on until Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest got close, so why didn't the other party have any intention of rescuing them? I don't know either. Su Yingshue's expression was a little ugly. A feeling faintly flashed in her mind. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had purposely come here to humiliate her and not to rescue them, but to provoke her? If that was really the case, then her joy just now was just wishful thinking. Chapter 3974. Hearing He Bingrui's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two couldn't help but turn their gazes over. When they saw He Bingrui's anxious expression, they found it funny. He Bingrui, it's already extremely benevolent of me to not kill you. Do you still think I will save you? Di Beichen's eyes were indifferent as he looked at He Bingrui and Xiao Wenyu. If it weren't for Rin Ziheng and Xiao Wenyu's face, he would have directly dealt with the two people who spoke rudely to Bailey Hongzhuang. Mo Yunjue also calmly retracted his gaze. The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. The two of them loved to fool around, and even though they were spared, they still couldn't escape the fate of death. It was obvious that even the heavens wanted them dead. Su Yingxue and He Bingrui, who were originally filled with hope, turned pale when they heard Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue's words. Their expressions were extremely ugly. All of their hope turned into bubbles in an instant, and an indescribable despair spread out in their hearts. They were already at the end of their rope. It was only because they saw a glimmer of hope that they unleashed all of their strength. However, once they lost the support from behind, only death awaited them. How could this be? Su Yingxue looked at Mo Yunjue in a daze. The latter's words were no different from stabbing a knife into her heart. All of her infatuation had turned into pain. She was actually such a loathsome person in this man's heart. Yingxue, what should we do? If this goes on, we will die. He Bingrui looked at Su Yingxue helplessly, and she felt a wave of regret. If they had known this would be the outcome, they wouldn't have treated Bailey Hongzhuang like that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have ended up in such a state. If they had teamed up with Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, not only would they not have been in any danger, they could even earn a large amount of points. Normally, they wouldn't have had such a good opportunity. However, all of this had been destroyed by these beasts with their own hands. Only then did Su Yingxue come back to her senses, and she couldn't help but look forward. When she noticed that Xiao Wenyu and the rest had been rescued, she couldn't help but shout, "Senior brother Xiao, quickly save us. We can't hold on much longer." Only then did He Bingrui remember that Xiao Wenyu and the others were still here. She immediately shouted, "Senior brother Xiao, I beg you." Xiao Wenyu and the rest who were already in a safe place had complicated expressions when they heard Su Yingxue and He Bingrui's cries for help. For a moment, they just stood on the spot and didn't move. Shangguan Yingying glanced at Xiao Wenyu's group and said, "We won't stop you if you want to rescue them. However, don't expect us to help you if you encounter danger again." They had saved Xiao Wenyu and the rest on account that they hadn't done anything wrong. However, they didn't have any sympathy for Su Yingxue and the rest. If Xiao Wenyu and the rest insisted on staying with Su Yingxue and Su Yingxue, they wouldn't bother with them anymore. Xiao Wenyu and the others weren't fools. They naturally knew the attitude of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If they went there now, then they would really offend Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. One had to know that this was the second time he had saved their lives. Rin Ziheng and the rest didn't say anything. This matter had to be decided by Xiao Wenyu and the rest. However, Xiao Wenyu and the rest stood on the spot and didn't go forward to rescue them. This action had already made their stance clear. Chapter 3975. Su Yingxue and He Bingrui had placed all their hopes on Xiao Wenyu. He was their last hope. However, when they saw Xiao Wenyu's indifference, their hearts gradually turned cold. His attitude was very clear, and that was that he would not come to save them. A strong hatred spread in Su Yingxue's heart. It was all because of Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for that damned Bailey Hongzhuang, things wouldn't have ended up like this. Bailey Hongzhuang, it's all because of you. Su Yingxue glared at Bailey Hongzhuang hatefully, her eyes flashing with anger and jealousy. She had only verbally offended Bailey Hongzhuang, which wasn't a big deal, but it was enough to force her to such a state. What right did she have? Hearing Su Yingshue's angry words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but turn her head. Compared to the former's hysteria, she was calm and indifferent. I said before, you will be taught a lesson. Facing Bailey Hongzhuang's nonchalant words, Su Yingxue was unable to restrain her anger. She immediately wanted to charge in Bailey Hongzhuang's direction. I'm going to kill you. However, just as Su Yingxue was about to move in Bailey Hongzhuang's direction, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her body. She lowered her head in a daze and realized that her chest had been pierced by a sharp sword. She looked at He Bingrue, who was behind her, in astonishment, her face filled with disbelief. Bingrue? Su Yingxue pointed at He Bingrue, unable to recover from the shock. She had no idea why He Bingrue would treat her like this. He Bingrue pulled out her sharp sword. Facing Su Yingshue's question, she could only remain silent. She then turned her gaze to Bailey Hongzhuang. Junior sister Bailey, I've already killed Su Yingxue for you. Can you let me live? Su Yingxue fell to the ground with a loud bang and was immediately torn into pieces by the skeletons that rushed up. Before she died, her eyes were still glaring at He Bingrue. Obviously, she had never thought that her most trusted friend would stab her with a sword. This feeling of betrayal made her extremely uncomfortable. This scene was clearly beyond everyone's expectations. No one thought that He Bingrue would do such a thing in order to save her own life. For a moment, everyone only felt that this He Bingrue was also an extremely terrifying person. That was her best friend. Previously, the two of them had been fighting against a common enemy. However, at this moment of life and death, she had gone overboard. After seeing this scene, everyone suddenly felt that although Su Yingshue's temper was annoying, people like He Bingrue were more terrifying. He betrayed them without hesitation. Who would dare to be teammates with such a person? He had to be prepared to be betrayed at any time. Everyone couldn't help but look at Xiao Wenyu. They didn't know how he felt as the captain. Xiao Wenyu instantly broke out in cold sweat. He had been teammates with He Bingrue for such a long time, but he had never known that He Bingrue had such a personality. He couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. Junior sister Bailey, I beg you. I don't want to die. He Bingrue shouted. The skeletons in front of her made her feel despair. With just her strength, it was impossible for her to walk out. Chapter 3976. If He Bingrue had persisted until the end with Su Yingxue, perhaps she would have admired her. However, her current actions had undoubtedly proved that He Bingrue was truly a despicable person. Such a person's death was not to be regretted. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, He Bingrue's face also showed a deep sense of despair. She originally thought that by helping Bailey Hongzhuang to vent her anger, the latter would let her off. She never thought that she would not achieve the effect she wanted. A blood-curdling scream came from He Bingrue's mouth. The surrounding skeletons had already closed in on her and directly broke her arm. Bailey Hongzhuang retracted her gaze. Sometimes, if you take a wrong step, you can never turn back. Even if He Bingrue regretted it now, it was useless because such an ending was destined from the start. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were quickly surrounded by the skeleton army. The skeleton army was very strong, but the three of them were not weak either. Therefore, even though they were surrounded, they did not show any signs of being unable to fight back. The others fought with the skeleton army at the periphery, taking advantage of this opportunity to earn more points. However, everyone's gaze still fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Once they discovered that they were in danger, they would definitely go to their aid at the first moment. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two's strength was very strong. After plucking a certain number of black flowers, they did not continue to stay and immediately retreated to the periphery. Only when they reached the periphery did everyone heave a sigh of relief. You guys came back safe and sound. At least there was no danger. Shengguan Yingying sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Yes, we came back safe and sound. Even though they were not weak, under such a high-intensity battle, the consumption of their primary energy was very shocking. Therefore, it was not suitable for them to drag on for too long. When the skeleton army saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had returned safely, they were obviously very dissatisfied. Immediately, they launched a wave of attacks towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. However, their team today could be said to be extraordinarily large. There were no less than 20 experts present. Even if the skeleton army launched an attack, they were still unable to seriously injure them. Following the failure of 2 consecutive attacks, the night was already half over and the skeleton army gradually left. After the skeleton army left, Bailey Hongzhuang took a closer look. Sure enough, after the skeleton army disappeared, the black flower disappeared as well. It was as if it had never appeared. Those guys are finally gone. I'm so tired. Shangguan Yingying sat limply on the ground, rubbing her other arm with one hand. She had been waving her sword the whole night, and her arm was sore. Xiren sat down beside Shangguan Yingying and began to massage her shoulders. You can have a good rest now. Bailey Hongzhuang also sat down. She did not feel very tired. This kind of intensity was already a routine reform for her, so she did not feel that it was too tiring. I really didn't expect Su Yingxue to die in the hands of He Bingrue. This ending really makes one sigh. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but shake her head. Her face was full of emotions. In the end, even she was shocked. Chapter 3977. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately took out the black flower she had plucked earlier. She was very curious about the black flower and wanted to know if it was the catalyst she had been looking for all this time. If it was, then the power of darkness would no longer be a threat to them in the future. Ren Ziheng and the others were currently using Bailey Hongzhuang's medicine. No matter how careful they could not avoid injuries after a night of battle. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang examine the black flower, Lin Mingtao could not help but ask, Junior Sister Bailey, is the catalyst you've been looking for this black flower? Bailey Hongzhuang withdrew her gaze from the black flower and turned to look at Lin Mingtao. She shook her head. I can't be sure right now. I need some time to study the characteristics of the black flower before I can determine it. Understood. Lin Mingtao nodded and smiled in admiration. Junior Sister Bailey's eyesight is really good. You even noticed such a rare black flower. I've been training here for so long, but I've never noticed it. My eyesight is really bad. Lin Mingtao, you're right. I've been here for so long, but I've never noticed it, sighed Ren Ziheng. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled when she heard that. You're not doctors, so of course you wouldn't pay special attention to these things. It's just that I've been looking for it the entire time, which is why I noticed it today. If the black flower really is a catalyst for restraining the power of darkness, then that's interesting. So many people from the 100 Flowers sect have been searching for a catalyst here, but they've never found anything. Junior Sister Bailey, you've only been here for the second time, and you've already discovered it. I'm sure they'll be furious when they find out. Chu Jinfeng seemed to have thought of something funny and could not help but chuckle. Everyone present could not help but chuckle when they heard Chu Jinfeng's words. It was just as Chu Jinfeng had said. If Bailey Hongzhuang had found it so easily, then the people from the 100 Flowers sect would indeed be depressed to death. The sky gradually brightened. After recovering her Yuan Qi, Bailey Hongzhuang did not plan on going anywhere else. She focused all her attention on the black flower. She had a vague premonition that the thing she was looking for was this black flower. Ren Ziheng, Junior Sister Bailey, thank you so much for your help yesterday. You've already saved us twice. I will never forget the favor of saving my life. Xiao Wenyu cupped his fists and bowed deeply to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. After being rescued the last time, he had been thinking about how he could repay this kindness. He never thought that before he could repay the previous kindness, he would be rescued by Bailey Hongzhuang and the others again. Senior Brother Xiao, don't worry about it. It's only right for fellow disciples to help each other, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. I didn't expect you to save me twice in such a short period of time. I feel extremely ashamed. Xiao Wenyu sighed. His expression was filled with helplessness. Xiao Wenyu, don't take it to heart. In this training ground, we have always helped each other. This time, I will help you. Next time, you can help me, Ren Ziheng said with a smile. Xiao Wenyu smiled and nodded. If you need my help in the future, just let me know. Chapter 3978. Rinzime couldn't help but look at Xiao Wenyu. Originally, it was already very dangerous with only 6 people in their team. Now that they had lost 2 people, the 4 of them might not be able to hold on until they returned. Hearing Rinzime's words, Xiao Wenyu's expression was a little awkward. This was a big problem that he had been thinking about. Before Su Yingxue made a scene, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had already agreed to form a team with them until they left. However, after that incident, he didn't have the face to mention it again. However, now that there were only 4 people left in their team, what should they do was really a big problem. This, Xiao Wenyu said awkwardly, I don't know what to do for the time being. If senior brother Xiao doesn't mind, then form a team with us and go back when the teleportation formation opens, Di Beichen suddenly said. Hearing this, Xiao Wenyu and the others couldn't help but look at Di Beichen in surprise. They didn't expect Di Beichen to be willing to help them now. The next moment, the 4 of them couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't want to, they naturally wouldn't stay here shamelessly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded indifferently. Senior brother Xiao, if you don't mind, then stay. Shengguan Yingying and the others also nodded. They had a very good impression of Xiao Wenyu and the others. The 4 of them weren't pretentious and didn't put on airs. No matter what happened, they had a lot of discussion and were very respectful to them. Forming a team with them was just for convenience and wouldn't drag them down. Now that they were going to stay in Penglai Palace for a while, there was no harm in making more friends. Xiao Wenyu and the others looked at each other and smiled happily. Thank you very much. At this time, Lin Mingtao also stood up and said, It's already dawn. We'll leave first. Lin Mingtao, you're leaving? Xiao Wenyu looked at Lin Mingtao in surprise. He thought that Lin Mingtao and Bailey Hongzhuang had already formed a team. He didn't expect Lin Mingtao to leave at dawn. Not bad. Lin Mingtao smiled and nodded. Yesterday, I happened to meet Ren Ziheng and the others, so we temporarily formed a team. We said that it was only a temporary team. Now that the sun has risen, we naturally won't continue to disturb you. Listening to Lin Mingtao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at him with a bit more appreciation. Ren Ziheng's previous judgment was really correct. This Lin Mingtao was really a shrewd person. His way of dealing with people made people feel very comfortable. Ren Ziheng, junior brother Di, farewell. Lin Mingtao cupped his fists and said. The cultivators behind him also said, farewell. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also stood up and cupped their hands. Goodbye, take care. Take care. Then Lin Mingtao and his group slowly disappeared from the sight of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to sit down. She needed some time to study this black flower. Let's stay here and cultivate today. Hongzhuang wants to study the characteristics of this black flower. It's not too late for us to act when the skeleton army appears at night, Di Beichen said slowly. No problem. Ren Ziheng nodded. Anyway, it's the same no matter where during the day. We might as well save our energy. Xiao Wenyu, what do you think? Chapter 3979. Bailey Hongzhuang focused all her attention on researching the black flower. This was the first time she had seen such a flower and there were no records of it in the medical books. Hence, she would need some time to understand the characteristics of the black flower. After Bailey Hongzhuang focused on researching the black flower, everyone else also focused on meditating and cultivating. After the great battle last night, taking advantage of this time to cultivate would greatly increase their powers. Time slowly passed and before they knew it, it was already evening. When the 3 beasts saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had been researching the flower, they could not help but come closer. Master, how's your research coming along? At the moment, I've discovered some characteristics, but there are still many things that we don't know. It's not something that can be figured out in a short period of time. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly replied. Can this black flower be used as a medicinal ingredient? Baisher asked curiously. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment before nodding. It should be possible. There are also some special substances in it that I've never seen before. It's really interesting. Ever since she had arrived at this training ground, she had realized that everything that had appeared in this place was very foreign to her. Even the things that the black flower contained were things that she had never understood before. Just this point alone was already very shocking. After all, in order to study medicine, she had read through almost all the medical books. As long as it was about medicinal ingredients, there was almost nothing that she did not understand. Now, she had actually seen medicinal ingredients that she had never seen before. This was extremely rare. She believed that even if this black flower had fallen into the hands of the members of the 100 Flowers Order, they would not know anything about it either. The entire night was still peaceful. When Xiao Wenyu and the others realized this, they felt unusually helpless. Following beside Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they were not worried about the appearance of the skeleton army. However, there was no trace of the skeleton army at all. When they had parted ways with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they were worried that the skeleton army would appear. However, the skeleton army had appeared right where they were, making it impossible for them to hide. What kind of situation was this? In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang continued to focus all her energy on studying the black flower. Every day there would be some new progress. Ren Zihang and the others couldn't help but admire Bailey Hongzhuang when they saw how persistent she was in her research. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills were so amazing. Just this kind of persistence was not something an ordinary person could have. Where there was a will, there was a way. Just by looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's perseverance, one could tell that there was nothing she couldn't accomplish. A few days later, they encountered the skeleton army again. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Bailey Hongzhuang plucked a lot of black flowers. Now, she was almost certain that this black flower was the catalyst that she had been looking for. As long as it was combined with a few other medicinal herbs, she believed that it would be able to effectively restrain the power of darkness. Who would have thought that the solution to the unbreakable power of darkness would be in the appearance of the black flower when the skeleton army appeared? Nature was indeed incomparably mysterious. Junior Sister Bailey, does this mean that you've already researched a medicine that can completely restrain the power of darkness? Xiao Wenyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. His heart was filled with shock. Chapter 3980. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly, although I'm not completely sure, I think it's pretty close. The prescription that she had researched before was already able to restrain the dark power, but it lacked a guiding herb, so it couldn't be completely cured. Now that the guiding herb had been found, she only needed to adjust the ratio and she believed that it would be successful. Hongzhuang, you're really amazing. Shangguan Yingying couldn't hide the excitement on her face. You actually found a way to break the dark powers so quickly. If this news is spread, I think everyone will be very surprised. Ren Zimei clapped her hands. This is a big problem that Penglai Island has been unable to solve for so many years. Now that you can completely solve it, this is great news for everyone. They had been troubled by this problem for too long. Many times, ordinary injuries were not fatal at all, but because of the existence of the dark power, the injuries could not be healed and they could only lose their lives. In fact, since Bailey Hongzhuang developed the healing medicine, the casualties of the practitioners had been reduced a lot. If it could be completely solved, it would be even better. I'll research it later. When it's completely developed, I'll give the prescription of the healing medicine to the hall master. At that time, everyone can use it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. From the perspective of dealing with skeletons, they were all companions, so she naturally wouldn't be stingy. Then I have to thank Junior Sister Bailey first. Xiao Wenyu sighed. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and others were talking happily, they didn't notice that there was a group of people watching them not far from them. Senior Brother Li, there seems to be people from Penglai Palace in front. Did your contract beast hear what they were talking about? Li Yunyu asked. After Cheng Terui and the contract beast communicated for a while, a thick shock appeared on his face. Senior Brother Li, the contract beast said that they were talking about the healing medicine that can restrain the dark power. As soon as these words came out, Li Yunyu couldn't help but be stunned. Healing medicine? Recently, Penglai Palace has become famous because of the healing medicine. What are they talking about? According to the content of their conversation, it seems that one of the women has developed a medicine that can completely suppress the power of darkness. She is very happy right now. Following Ching Terui's words, all the cultivators in the group could not help but be stunned. They looked at Li Yunyu in surprise, thinking that they had misheard. What did you say? A drug that can completely restrain the power of darkness? Li Yunyu's eyes were fixed on Ching Terui, his eyes filled with disbelief. Ching Terui nodded. That's right. That's what the contract beast heard. I heard that the reason why Penglai Palace launched such a healing medicine this time was because the prescription was submitted by a cultivator from Penglai Palace. Could it be that our luck is so good that we can meet that cultivator so coincidentally? A look of ecstasy appeared on Li Yunyu's face. If he could obtain that medicinal formula, it would be no different from a treasure. As long as he handed this prescription to the sect, his position in the sect would definitely rise, and he would become a cultivator with a lot of weight. Ching Terui and the others also thought of the various benefits that this would bring, and their eyes became brighter. Chapter 3981. Let's go. Let's follow them and take a look. Li Yunyu waved his hand and immediately led the cultivators in the group forward. They had to listen carefully to what the other party had to say. As they gradually got closer, the other party's conversation entered their ears. The more they listened, the more excited they became. They never thought that their luck would be so good. Who goes there? Di Baichen suddenly shouted. When they heard Di Baichen's voice, the group's expressions changed and they looked around. They did not know that there were other cultivators around them. The group looked around cautiously. They had not noticed that there were other people around them. As Di Baichen spoke, Li Yunyu and the others no longer hid themselves. They slowly approached from behind and appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. They're from the Crimson Moon sect. Ren Ziheng and the others immediately recognized the clothes as belonging to the Crimson Moon sect. They immediately recalled what they had said earlier and could not help but sigh in their hearts. Li Yunyu's face rippled with a faint smile. That's right, we're from the Crimson Moon sect. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze could not help but fall upon one of the cultivators behind Li Yunyu. She never thought that she would bump into an acquaintance in a place like this. Xiao Nan! Bailey Hongzhuang cried out in surprise. This person had been their opponent in the past, but they had not bumped into each other since. Shengguan Yingying raised her eyebrows as well. I never thought that I would bump into him here. It's really a small world indeed. This fellow can be considered as a fish that escaped the net. Since we've bumped into him now, let's take advantage of this opportunity to teach him a lesson. Xiren said. Xiaonan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others in astonishment. He clearly did not know these fellows. Why did they act as if they were very familiar with him? Li Yunyu could not help but turn to look at Xiaonan and asked, Xiaonan, do you know them? Xiaonan shook her head in puzzlement. I don't remember knowing them. Xiaonan, you forget so quickly. Back then, you wholeheartedly helped Gao Hanchun and the others to intimidate us. Now that Gao Hanchun and the other two are dead, you have completely forgotten about us. However, we haven't forgotten about you, Shengguan Yingying said. Back then, after Gao Hanchuan's faction had been destroyed, the three of them had wanted to join the Crimson Moon sect through Xiaonan. Xiaonan had even specially hired people from the 100 Flowers Gate to deal with them. She had never thought that she would end up losing the rice used to lure the chicken. Since then, they'd killed Gao Hanchuan's group of 3, yet they hadn't seen Xiaonan. They'd originally thought that they wouldn't have the chance to see her again, yet they just so happened to encounter her today. It was really fate. Xiaonan, who was originally confused, suddenly widened his eyes after hearing this. His eyes flashed with deep shock. Those 4 guys back then, were you guys? That's right, it's us. Shengguan Yingying replied. You didn't look like this back then. Xiaonan's face was full of surprise. You changed your appearance back then. It seems that you're not stupid, Xiren said with a faint smile. After thinking about this, Xiaonan could not help but look at Li Yunyu. Senior brother Li, it seems that we didn't hear wrong. One of these 4 guys is an extremely powerful doctor. Back then, I saw Master Mo of the 100 Flowers Gate invite her to join with my own eyes. However, I didn't expect her to join the Penglai Palace in the end. Chapter 3982. As Xiao Nan's voice fell, the eyes of Li Yunyu and the others became brighter. They were originally very inclined to believe it, and now with Xiao Nan's affirmation, they could be sure that this group of people in front of them really had the prescription of the healing medicine. Li Yunyu, we have never had any grudges with you. What are you trying to do by coming out now? Ren Ziheng's eyes darkened and his voice carried a hint of threat. They were both people who frequented this training ground, so they had some understanding of each other. However, when they met each other, they usually went their own ways and had never interacted with each other. Now that the other party knew that they had the prescription, they must have harbored evil intentions. However, he still had to warn them. After all, the other party had many people in their group. Furthermore, Li Yunyu was also a cultivator at the Starlight Realm. He could not rule out the possibility that there might be other cultivators at the Starlight Realm in the other party's group. Hence, splitting up like this was undoubtedly the best outcome. Otherwise, if they were to fight, he would not be able to determine the final outcome. Li Yunyu smiled faintly. What I want is very simple. As long as you give us the prescription that you have researched, I will let you go. How about it? Don't even think about it. Ren Zimei immediately rejected him. It had not been easy for Bailey Hongzhuang to develop this healing medicine. This was an extremely important item to the Penglai Palace. How could they let the people from the Crimson Moon sect take it away so easily? Once these words were spoken, the faces of Li Yunyu and the others could not help but darken. Looking at your attitude, it's useless for me to speak nicely. I advise you to obediently hand over the prescription. This way you can still leave safely. If you are unwilling, we can only snatch it by force. This way, I'm afraid that it will be very difficult for you to leave this place alive. Cheng Terui's voice was filled with threat. As long as you leave Xiaonan behind and leave now, I can still spare your lives. Otherwise, all of you will die here. Di Beichen's expression was indifferent. His hawk-like gaze was sharp and filled with murderous intent. Ever since they had raised their cultivation to the Starlight Realm, no one had dared to say such harsh words to them. Now, a few ignorant fellows had appeared. He could see that these people were not weak, but if they really fought, it would not be easy for them to defeat them. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Li Yunyu couldn't help but chuckle. What a big tone. Xiaobai, you don't look familiar. This must be your first time coming to this training ground, right? With just a little bit of ability, you're already invincible. Let me tell you, you'll have to pay the price for being so arrogant. That's right. It's obvious that he's a newbie in this team. He actually dares to stand out. What a joke. Xiao Nan sneered. Back then, you were chased all over the place by Gao Hanchun and the others. Although some time has passed, I'm sure you're at most at the 6th or 7th level of the Purple Realm. How dare you show off in front of us? You're courting death. Originally, Li Yunyu and the others thought that Di Beichen's strength was a mystery. Now, after listening to Xiao Nan's judgment, they found it even more amusing. With such little strength, it was easy for them to get rid of him. Chapter 3983. Looking at Li Yunyu and others' contempt for Di Beichen, Ren Ziheng and Xiao Wenyu couldn't help but look at each other. They both felt a little funny in their hearts. Di Beichen was the most important person in their team. Now he was called Xiao by face by the other party. This was really funny. However, looking at Di Beichen's face, it was really easy for men to give him such a title. However, Di Beichen was not Xiao by face. He had both strength and appearance. He was an impeccable powerhouse. Xiao by face. Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but laugh after hearing this title. You actually called Beichen Xiao by face? As she spoke, Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. She looked as if she had heard the funniest joke. Haha, Hongzhuang, isn't this guy too blind? He is not blind, but he doesn't have eyes at all, Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly, but there was a trace of coldness in the depths of her eyes. This damn guy, how dare he say that about her Beichen? Li Yunyu and others originally only felt that what they said was right, but after looking at Shengguan Yingying's exaggerated behavior, they couldn't help but frown. Could it be that Xiao by face in front of them was actually very strong? That's not right. He had stayed in this place for a long time. He had met most of the Penglai Palace's team, especially people with outstanding appearances like Bewitching and others. If he had seen them, he would definitely not forget them. What's more, Xiaonan confirmed that this guy was definitely a cultivator who had joined the Penglai Palace not long ago. Why did he have such a strange expression? Li Yunyu, you are wrong. Xiao Wenyu and I are not in charge of this team, Ren Ziheng said slowly, but his eyes turned to Di Beichen. Looking at Ren Ziheng's actions, Li Yunyu and the others couldn't help but stare blankly. The former's attitude was already very obvious. He wanted to see Di Beichen's attitude. I'll count to 3. If you don't scram, I'll take your lives. Di Beichen's voice was cold. He didn't even give the other party a chance to speak before he made his decision. Seeing Di Beichen being so arrogant, Li Yunyu's face turned extremely ugly. You. However, before Li Yunyu could say anything, Di Beichen's countdown rang out. 3. Senior brother Li, this fellow is truly too arrogant. In my opinion, he deserves to be taught a lesson. Xiaonan said coldly. Back then, he had offended LV Dong because of Di Beichen and the other 3. Just thinking about this made him very unhappy. Later on, when they found out that Gao Hanchun and the other 2 had died in the hands of the 4 of them, they were somewhat shocked. But now that they had bumped into them again, they could only say that these fellows were unlucky. 2. Stop counting. 1. It seems that you all want to die here today. Di Beichen's gaze was cold and chilling. He looked at them as if he was looking at a group of dead people. Ren Ziheng, Xiao Wenyu, you 2 are considered veterans in the Penglai Palace. I didn't expect that you would be led by the nose by a newcomer. This really surprised me. Li Yunyu looked at Ren Ziheng and Xiao Wenyu mockingly. He was a little uncertain because Di Beichen was really too arrogant. Could it be that this guy had a powerful background, so he could lead the entire team as a newcomer? Chapter 3984. Li Yunyu, let me give you a piece of advice. It's best if you leave now. Otherwise, you might really fail miserably today, Xiao Wenyu said coldly. However, Xiaonan stood up and said, Senior brother Li, you don't have to pay attention to them. They're just trying to scare you. Previously, I clearly understood from Gao Hanchun and the others that they're cultivators who came from the outside world a year ago. They don't have any background and aren't from Penglai Island at all. Xiaonan's face was filled with pride. Others didn't know the background of Di Beichen and the others, but he knew clearly. He definitely wouldn't be fooled by them. Are you sure? Li Yunyu looked at Xiaonan suspiciously and couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Xiaonan nodded affirmatively. I'm sure. Back then, Gao Hanchun alone forced the 4 of them to flee. If they had a background, how could they have fallen to such a state? That's good. Li Yunyu's expression became firm. They must have thought of this trick because they weren't a match for us. They intended to trick us. Fortunately, you know their background, so we won't be fooled. Senior brother Li, don't worry. As long as we kill all of them, no one will know about this at all. Xiaonan's eyes flashed with excitement. As long as we bring this prescription back, we'll have made a great contribution. Li Yunyu retracted his gaze. When he looked at Di Beichen again, there was a trace of disdain and understanding. I've seen through your scheme. It's useless to us. Since you're unwilling to take the initiative to hand over this prescription, then we can only act on our own. Just as Li Yunyu was about to make a move, Di Beichen had already attacked him without hesitation. Vigorous origin power erupted from Di Beichen's body. His attack was swift and domineering. The moment he made a move, it was a fatal move. He didn't give his opponent any time to breathe at all. Seeing that Di Beichen actually had the courage to take the initiative to attack him, Li Yunyu's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. However, he quickly went up to meet him. He had stayed in this training ground for so long. Could it be that he would still be afraid of a newcomer? Let him directly expose their lies. Let's see how they'll continue to act. Bang! The 2 palms collided, and a tyrannical force spread out. Li Yunyu was caught off guard and was knocked back 2 steps. How could this be? Li Yunyu looked at Di Beichen in astonishment. His eyes flashed with deep shock. His opponent was just a newcomer, but his strength was actually stronger than his. Wasn't that a little too terrifying? His right hand couldn't help but tremble. He had never thought that the opponent's strength would be so powerful. The attack just now was just a casual attack, so he suffered a loss. The meridians in his right arm were directly injured. Xiaonan was also shocked when he saw this scene. He looked at Bewitching in disbelief and couldn't wrap his head around it for a moment. It had only been half a year since they last met. How could Bewitching's strength become so terrifying? Li Yunyu, now you should know who the real leader of our team is, right? Ren Ziheng said slowly. Seeing this, Li Yunyu could not help but turn his head to look at Xiaonan. Xiaonan, didn't you say that they are all newcomers? This fellow has obviously already reached the second stage of the star magnate realm. Chapter 3985. Then what's the situation now? Li Yunyu cursed inwardly. If he had known that the guy in front of him was so strong, he would have been prepared. He would not have met the enemy half-heartedly and suffered such a huge loss. I don't know how his strength suddenly became so strong. When I met him, he was only at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. What kind of joke is this? Li Yunyu no longer believed Xiaonan's words. A year ago, he was still at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. A year later, he actually broke through to the 2nd level of the Star Radiance Realm. Are you dreaming? Anyone with a brain would know that this kind of thing was impossible. Xiaonan's expression was a little awkward. In fact, if he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have believed that such a thing could happen. However, he clearly remembered that Bewitching and the others were at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. Therefore, when he met them, he was still a little afraid. He really could not understand how Bewitching and the others' strength had increased so much in such a short period of time. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang appeared in front of Xiaonan. It's time to solve the problem that we couldn't solve back then. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold as her gaze fell on Xiaonan. Xiaonan and Gao Hanchun were jackals of the same tribe. They could not solve it the last time, so this time, they would not let him go. Xiaonan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. From her voice, he was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was Di Bei. It's you. I remember your voice. Among the four of them, he had the deepest impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. Originally, it was very easy to teach the four of them a lesson. However, it was because of Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills that Master Mo thought highly of her that led to the things that happened later. He could only run away with his tail between his legs. That's right, it's me. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold. In the next moment, her attack directly attacked Xiaonan. Xing Mang rank 1 strength exploded forth, and following her aura, Xiaonan's eyes couldn't help but flash with a thick sense of panic. He was only at the 8th level of the Purple Realm. Against Bailey Hongzhuang, who was at the 1st level of the Star Realm, he had no chance of winning. Therefore, when Bailey Hongzhuang attacked him, he could only quickly turn around and flee. In his mind, he kept thinking about how Bailey Hongzhuang's strength had increased so much. It was simply too shocking. Chengdu, save me! Xiaonan hurriedly shouted. The qi behind him was pressing straight towards him. He felt as if the skin on his back was about to be cut open. He could lose his life at any time. After hearing Xiaonan's cry for help, Cheng Turi quickly rushed over. However, just as Cheng Turi was about to reach Xiaonan, Mo Yunjue had already blocked his path. If you want to save him, you'd better take care of yourself first. Cheng Turi looked at Mo Yunjue in front of him and had a bad feeling in his heart. The other party had only sent out 2 cultivators, but they were both Xing Mang realm cultivators. No one knew how many Xing Mang realm cultivators there were in this group. He began to feel that their previous decision was too hasty. Chapter 3986. Following Mo Yunjue's display of strength at the 2nd level of the Starlight stage, Li Yunyu and the rest's faces turned extremely ugly. Originally, when they saw that the other party only had 13 people, while they had 20, they thought that they should have an absolute advantage. However, they never imagined that the other party, who they thought was a complete newbie, would actually be an Astral Radiance Realm expert, catching them off guard. Even in their group, there were only 3 Starlight Realm cultivators. How could they not be shocked? Looks like we've really underestimated you. Cheng Terui looked coldly at Mo Yunjue. The appearance of this man in front of him made him feel an inexplicable pressure, causing him to feel extremely unhappy. Mo Yunjue's face was expressionless, his expression cold. You can slowly regret it when you're in hell. Just as he finished speaking, Mo Yunjue's attack came stealthily. Every move was ruthless, aiming straight for the opponent's vital points. Facing Mo Yunjue's attack, Cheng Terui broke out in cold sweat. He completely did not expect that this young man in front of him would use all his killing moves. If he was slightly careless, he would be hit in his vital points, causing him to have no choice but to concentrate fully on defending. He did not want to lose his life just like that. All of you, support Xiao Nan. Li Yunyu was currently busy fighting with Bewitching. When he saw Xiao Nan being chased by Bailey Hongzhuang, he hurriedly called out for the other practitioners in the team. The other practitioners were originally shocked by the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. However, after Li Yunyu's reminder, they all reacted and immediately rushed to help Xiao Nan. Currently, their greatest advantage was that they had more people than the opponent. Naturally, they could not let the opponent take advantage of this opportunity to reduce their numbers. However, just as the other cultivators took action, Ren Zihang and the rest did not stay idle. They immediately took action and stopped the other cultivators. Die! Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly. She pushed her speed to the limit and struck Xiao Nan's back with her palm. Xiao Nan only felt a strong gust of wind behind him. That ferocious force caused his scalp to go numb. In the next moment, he felt himself being hit by a heavy blow. Following that, his entire body flew forward uncontrollably. An intense pain came from her back. Her internal organs seemed to have shifted under this attack. Xiao Nan was completely out of control. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Pooh! Xiao Nan lay on the ground, unable to get up for a moment. Just as he was trying to get up, Bailey Hongzhuang stepped on his back. Don't even think about getting up. You will never be able to stand up again in this lifetime, Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently. Xiao Nan's cultivation was only at the 9th level of the Purple Realm. If it had been in the past, it would have been very difficult for her to deal with him. But now that she was a cultivator of the Astral Realm, it was not difficult for her to deal with him. Since she had said that she wanted to take his life, she naturally would not give him any chance to live. Xiao Nan's expression was extremely ugly. He understood how powerful this attack was. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth. If this continued, he would definitely lose his little life here. In the next moment, he immediately took out a pill from his heaven-earth bag and wanted to feed himself. Chapter 3987. Xiao Nan let out a blood-curdling scream. The medicinal pill was directly crushed into the ground, and the back of his hand was also burning with pain. Don't you go too far. Xiao Nan glared at Bailey Hongzhuang, the fury in his eyes almost shooting out. His intense hatred was so intense that he wanted nothing more than to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. However, in the face of Xiao Nan's curses, Bailey Hongzhuang only smiled coldly. I'm bullying you. What can you do about it? Xiao Nan was slightly stunned. Just as he was about to explode, he realized that Li Yunyu and Cheng Terui had been stopped by Bewitching and Mo Yunjue. The others were still some distance away from him. Now that he was in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no way for him to retaliate. It could be said that his life was completely in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. For a moment he lost all his temper. Were you all pretending to be strong before this? Xiao Nan could not help but ask. He really could not understand. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were only at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. How could they have improved so much in such a short period of time? This completely went against everyone's understanding. No. Then what's going on? What do you mean, what's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I'm improving while cultivating. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Nan was extremely depressed. This answer was as good as not answering at all. This was simply impossible. Everyone knew that at their level, Every increase in level required a lot of effort. What more to complete the leap from the purple realm to the starry sky realm? Many people were stuck at this bottleneck and were unable to break through. Bailey Hongzhuang had just casually said that they had broken through while cultivating. Was she trying to anger them to death? Woman, you're full of nonsense, Xiaonan said angrily. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly stomped her right foot and fiercely stomped on his chest. Xiaonan immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Since you talk so much, I'll just send you to heaven. The flowing light sword suddenly appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, and she stabbed at Xiaonan without hesitation. Help! Xiaonan shouted, feeling as if his whole body was suffocating. He didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so merciless. How dare you! Li Yunyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang angrily. If they were killed by Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as they met, where would they put their faces? Hearing Li Yunyu's words, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped and looked at Li Yunyu. Just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and said, "Then you have to see clearly whether I dare or not." Just as she spoke, the flowing light sword pierced mercilessly into Xiaonan's chest. Xiaonan's eyes widened as he stared dazedly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Clearly, even at the moment of his death, he could not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so decisive. You! Li Yunyu glared at Bailey Hongzhuang, unable to control his anger. Stop spouting nonsense. Since you want to kill us, you should naturally be prepared to be killed as well. Xiaonan is only going down to wait for you. Later on, you'll all join him one by one. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a small smile. Her figure flashed and she immediately turned towards the other cultivators from the Crimson Moon sect. End this quickly, don't let any of them off. Bewitching suddenly exclaimed. Chapter 3988. Hearing Bewitching's words, everyone present was stunned. Li Yunyu looked at Bewitching in astonishment. He didn't expect Bewitching to be so ruthless, wanting to take all their lives the moment he made his move. Don't leave a single one alive. Mo Yunjue's deep, black eyes flashed with a cold light as he reminded them once again. Originally, Ren Ziheng and the rest didn't understand why Bewitching suddenly made such a decision. However, after hearing Mo Yunjue's words, they understood after thinking about it carefully. Now, they had to kill the other party without a doubt. Otherwise, if the other party leaked this news, they would be in trouble in the future. Thinking of this, everyone's gaze sharpened. Since there was no way out, they could only fight with their lives on the line. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi also joined the battle. Although their strength couldn't be compared to Bailey Hongzhuang, they weren't weak either. They could still deal with the other party's cultivators. Seeing the changes in Bailey Hongzhuang's group, Li Yunyu and the rest's expressions turned ugly. They didn't expect the other party to want them to kill them all in one fell swoop. Bewitching's attacks became increasingly fierce, oppressing Li Yunyu to the point that he couldn't breathe. Li Yunyu was also extremely depressed. Clearly, he and Bewitching were both Star Rays Level 2 cultivators. However, he was constantly being suppressed by Bewitching. It was very difficult for him to even counterattack. He could only barely cope with Bewitching's attacks. One must know that his battle strength was usually very strong among Star Rays Level 2 cultivators. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. It could be seen that Bewitching's battle strength was indeed very abnormal. His gaze shifted slightly. He had originally hoped that Cheng Terui could kill Mo Yunjue. This way, the pressure on him would be reduced by a lot. As long as he could kill the other party's Star Rays Level 2 cultivators, the outcome of this battle would be decided. However, when he looked at Cheng Terui, he realized that Cheng Terui's condition wasn't any better than his. Both of them could only passively fight, unable to pose any threat to the other party. Li Yunyu cursed in his heart. If this continued, they would really die here. Bewitching also noticed that Li Yunyu was distracted, and a sneer appeared in his eyes. Wasn't he courting death by being distracted at a time like this? Bang! Bewitching fainted and then punched Li Yunyu in the chest. Li Yunyu hurriedly retreated a few steps, but Bewitching did not intend to give his opponent any chance to breathe after his successful attack. He immediately attacked the same spot on Li Yunyo's body, one punch after another. His movements were as fast as lightning, and he continuously landed on the same spot. Li Yunyu could only feel an intense pain coming from his chest. He couldn't tell how many punches Di Baichen had landed on him. When Di Baichen released his grip, he could no longer control his body to continue standing. His entire body fell to the ground with a loud bang, and blood flowed out from the corner of his lips. "Senior brother Li!" The Crimson Moon sect's cultivators couldn't help but exclaim. Li Yunyu was the strongest leader in their team. They never thought that he would be beaten down by the other party just like that. When they looked at Di Baichen again, their eyes flashed with a strong sense of fear. Chapter 3989. It turned out that this Di Baichen was not Xiaobai at all, but a cultivator with abnormally strong abilities. When Ren Ziheng said that Di Baichen was the leader of their team, he was not trying to scare them, but it was all the truth. "Senior brother Li, how are you?" Cheng Turi looked at Li Yunyu worriedly. Nothing must happen to Li Yunyu. If Li Yunyu fell, then they were destined to fail. Li Yunyu forcefully swallowed the blood between his lips and teeth. His face was pale, but his gaze was sharp. "I really underestimated you." Di Baichen's appearance was too deceiving. He was so young and had such outstanding looks. Who would have thought that he would be so powerful? "You overestimated yourself." Di Baichen's gaze was indifferent. He looked at Li Yunyu, who was holding on, with a mocking expression. Others might not know how serious Li Yunyo's injuries were, but he knew very well. Li Yunyu was already severely injured, and was no longer his match. "If you have the time to worry about your senior brother Li, why don't you worry about yourself instead?" As soon as he finished speaking, Mo Yunjue kicked Cheng Terui's body. Boom! Cheng Terui's body fell heavily to the ground. He immediately tried to get up, but Mo Yunjue did not give Cheng Terui a chance to refute. He immediately stabbed his sword. "In your next life, before you rob someone, you have to be careful. You have to consider whether you have the ability to do so." The sound of the sword piercing into the body was heard. Mo Yunjue coldly withdrew his sword, leaving behind a trail of blood. Cheng Terui's body twitched, and he stared straight at Mo Yunjue. Clearly, he did not expect his life to end like this, without any chance to recover. At the same time, Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang also ended the lives of the opposing Astral Radiance cultivators. If the opponent's cultivation was higher than theirs, they might be able to hold on for a while longer. But if the opponent's cultivation was the same as theirs, and they had the blood chi field and the killing chi field, there was only one ending for the opponent: defeat. The Crimson Moon sect had a greater number of cultivators, and they had the upper hand in the battle. Therefore, even though when Xiren and the others were fighting with all their might, they could only remain in a stalemate. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang understood in her heart. The Penglai Palace was indeed the strongest force on the Penglai Island. The overall combat power of the cultivators was also stronger than that of the Crimson Moon sect. That was why they were able to fight evenly without having the upper hand. Compared to the calmness of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, the cultivators of the Crimson Moon sect were ashen. In the blink of an eye, the strongest fighting force in their team had been dealt with. The result of this battle was obvious. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but look at each other, no longer in the mood to continue fighting. "Stop them! They're trying to escape." Bailey Hongzhuang immediately saw through their thoughts and immediately reminded them. Once they let these people go, there was no telling what kind of trouble they would cause in the future. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang said this, the cultivators of the Crimson Moon sect scattered in all directions. At a time like this, the only way to save their own lives was to split up and run. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.